Yep. Season 8, episode 22, number 329 of the Decoded Podcast. The last Saturday of the break.
Or just another Saturday.
It depends, I guess, who you talk to.
Yeah.
Who's ready to
Well,
go back.
okay,
who's not
so
ready to go
right
back.
now, I like that. So right now, who am I talking to?
What do you mean?
Well, I'm putting it back to you.
You're
Who are
talking.
you and who are you in that statement? Who are you in
So,
that statement?
you know who I am? I
Because
am.
it can be the someone asks you how you doing, they're like living the dream, and you're like, oh, F
Oh,
you.
God,
Don't
no.
say that. Right? What you're saying right now can be that. We can walk away from it, and it can just become fossil fuel, you know. So I put it back to you. Who are you when you say that statement?
I am someone who just had a week of doing doing things other than going to work. And that ends this weekend. Next week there is no choice in where I go Monday to Friday. There is no choice in the schedule that I follow in terms of there's a wake up time, there's a get in the car drive to work time, there's a do the work, then there's the come home and do what happens after work time. It's like this week has not been like that. Lots of structure has There's been no structure this week in a weird way. So you're talking to somebody who recognizes that today's Saturday and that today and tomorrow there is a return to a routine that that rolls into this coming work week back into a structure that is kind of non-negotiable. And I did a really good job this past week of not following much structure other than I needed to be at certain places at certain times. Some of those things I organized, most of them I did not. They just seemed to be. And then I was. So that's who you're talking to right now. Gary's with us. Good morning, Gary.
Morning, Gary.
You know, something that was nice about my lack of structure, I got to meet up with Gary last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
The real life Gary. And it was good. It was nice to check in with Gary in real life. And we talked shop, but it was good. It was good.
I found I didn't have did I talk shop? I didn't really talk much shop at all. I think the closest I got to talking shop, I did email my principal because I went in to water the plants in my classroom. So I have a bunch of plants, 6 or 7 plants along one of the windows, and I just knew by midweek they'd be craving some water. So I went and I took care of some of that.
They must have been happy.
I'll assume so. Yeah, I'll assume so. I'm not specifically that guy where I spend a lot of time like talking directly to my plants. I know people that I know people that do. I've had that sort of strange conversation with my class about our plants people. I've gone there. I water them, you know, I open the blinds, give them some sunshine, and just kind of let them do their thing. So yeah, getting back in just to do that's about as close as I got to having, let's say, work conversations, I guess. That's interesting. That's interesting to me. I find I'm craving apart from, you know, the conversations that you and I have, this ongoing dialogue, multi-platform dialogue. I find I'm not really craving educational conversations. Definitely not like a decade ago. I was talking to Karen. We were driving, and I said, you know, I miss Twitter. She's like, you can always go back on. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not. X, and it's kind of like I'm going nostalgia on this. It's
Mm.
like it's like a time. So it's like Twitter a decade ago was probably the last time I enjoyed it. Like actually had a deep sense of connection and enjoyed being there and talking to the people that I was talking with and sharing resources and finding out new things. Uh, I have no craving to go to, hang at the current Twitter. Uh, but yeah, it's just kind of funny. So to that end, talking with Karen about, I don't crave I don't crave conversations that are specific to education. I find every single one of my educational conversations right now swings to the human condition. It's not actually it's not about the thing that we're talking about. It ends up becoming kind of like an analysis of the human condition, which is so much more open-ended and loose than talking about curricula or assessment evaluation or equity. Like that feels very specific. There's a pillar there you can kind of lean on while you're chatting with your buddy about it. You get it back to the human condition, and it's just like, man, there's so much fascinating sort of richness there to sort of like dig into with your friends that it's a part of what I find you and I often will talk about. It really, I think it comes back to the human relationship part, and it's kind of framed within an EDU context. I'm betting, because of our mindsets, we could be firefighters, we could be professional huggers, we could be artists, and we would still have this fascination with the human condition part of it. It just so happens that both you and I are educators in this specific space.
I have to say, I really like how you shaped that, and your like the type of educator conversation that you would crave as opposed to the type that you wouldn't. And it got me thinking about the types of things we talk about, how we go deep about certain things. And I feel it was the same with Gary that day.
Hmm.
And I see Gary as like a mentor for me in this new space. So the conversation is rich, it's real, it's beneficial, it's guided by what we want to talk about, not somebody saying, here, talk about this, you know, very beneficial. I think it's what's I like to nerd out or geek out on those types of conversations. The the gray areas, the uh, making assumptions, wondering what might happen next. Like it was great to talk to him about the politics that you might not get to talk about with other people, how things work, his perspective compared to my perspective. It was just it was rich and real. And I appreciated that because that doesn't happen when I'm at work. There, I feel like I don't make time for that, and I don't have the relationships with people to want to go there. Really, Gary says human condition, relationships. Um, yeah, with certain people, it's good stuff, and then with other people, it's not. It's it's not. It's not going to happen. Don't want to go there.
I I think part of the fascination too, and this is Gil, get this reference, the second life learning kind of stuff, is the synergistic effect of whatever the human condition I'm observing is lens through my own human condition. That's what's kind of what I've become to I've I guess become more comfortable with discussing in this manner, that the thing that I notice, I am also a part of it, even if I can't see myself a part of it. So for me, there is no sort of cool, omniscient, uh, completely disconnected um, viewer. I am a player in my own life. It's on one hand, I'll talk about you and I have talked about agency and becoming more effective in our own lives, as husbands, as dads, as dudes in our own lives. the moment that I'm observing a behavior that's happening away from me, at some point, at least in education, I would have said that's their problem. Or that's only them. Like somehow I get to fishbowl them and say that I have no play there. I think I'm becoming more and more comfortable though with accepting that I am a part of that sphere. If I'm observing it, I'm there. I mean, short of actually putting humans in an aquarium and kind of they don't see me. It's like that one main mirror. But if they can see me while they're having a moment or they're having a conversation, then that means I'm a part of the moment. I don't get to kind of say it's just happening over there. And I'm becoming more and more fascinated with that interactivity in my own life because what it also reminds me is um there's opportunities to engage like I don't it's sometimes that you watch if I use one of my students as an example, to just let them have their moment is fine, but then to find a way to be in that moment with them is also really powerful. It's really kind of cool. So I've become kind of obsessed with this thought frame of trying to figure out what's the dialogue or what's the conversation that we're in here. Because for me, just to sort of narrate something that I'm observing means that if I'm kind of just doing it in my head, then I'm creating a bit of a fiction. I don't actually know what's going on with the person. I'm not actually directly connecting with them. I'm not sort of talking, questioning, interacting. So with my students right now, when they'll have a moment or they'll start to talk about something, I said, let's just pause for a second and agree and try to come to an agreement about what we're actually talking about, just so that we can stay in the same conversation. And that's really difficult. I mean, even you and I on here, we're meandering and stuff. But if we were to hold each other to account to like, no, we can't actually leave this point yet. Let's stay in the same conversation. If you're to go back through any of our game tapes, Gary, Rochelle, listening, like we meander. And for some people, they like that. They really do. But it takes a real sort of a mental discipline set to be able to stay with an idea and not fall to the pressures of leaving it too early. It's the discomfort. That's dissonance, right? That's our learning frame. So I'm starting to do that, which is a very different way for me to approach my work. Because when I would go to work, I would always kind of tell myself, I can clock out at the end of the night. I'm going to get my prep done. I'm done. And I think that's a good way to operate when you're sort of concerned about maintaining your mental wellness and balance. You have to be aware of that. But once you've achieved mental wellness and balance, does that mean you can kind of open yourself back up a little bit to sort of like staying more in the moment, staying more in thoughts, staying more connected? So I think what I've learned is that, like this past week, like I said, the only interaction that I had with work was emailing my principal saying I need to come in because that's the agreement. If you're in the school during downtimes, you have to have permission from the principal being there. Got permission, did it, done. And I felt pretty good about that, but I never sort of put it on a checklist like, yay, I escaped work. The way that I know that I had a holiday, a March break, was because I completely avoided work. I was able to stay sort of in conversation with work as per necessary. See, this was a meandering thing, but at the heart of it, getting comfortable with the what conversation am I actually in right now? And am I courageous enough to not just be that cool interloper observer, but to actually step up and ask a question, to connect, to sort of not leave and just steal my observations without actually sharing some of that moment too. And it goes a little bit back to that, the question I asked you, like, who are you in this conversation? Like, where are we in this conversation? Man, that was a messy little bit of blah blah blah.
It's good though. That's what we do here.
Yeah, yeah,
We operate sometimes in the messy blah blah blah.
yeah. We do. I do. I'll admit it. I do for sure. It makes me wonder, who is Gary going back this week? Who's Rochelle going back this week? Are they the people that are saying that they can go back because they've had a satisfying break? Are they, and I've kind of said this before, just somebody who had a week where there was less of something and more of something else? So this past week I had more free time. I had more, sorry, it's not that free time. That's a bad way to put it for me.
Just the
I
time that you weren't expected to be somewhere,
Yeah, I was gonna say sort
you
of
know?
unstructured time. That's really what it is. I know for me, I become kind of manic when it becomes unstructured time. So if I don't try and keep a constant flow, then I'll go into this like I'm not gonna do anything at all for 2 hours. And then I'm gonna be hyper productive for 2 hours. And that's when I don't have structured time. And that's not a great place for me because it's too swingy. Like it's too um I don't like being that unreliable to myself. I like to be more um skilled in using my time that way. So
No, I get you. I got you. I get it. I get it. This week for me was, as I've told you, lots of things I didn't plan for, but I'm going to try to embrace that that's what was necessary for the week. And then I'm going back to a structure and a standard. And I tell you, because this week was really weird for me, I'm glad that I stuck to my structure and schedule before leaving work for the week, because I feel good about the order that I'm returning to. In that Monday morning, I suspect getting up and heading to work is going to be problematic, in that my body is not going to want to get up that early. I'm probably not going to sleep well Sunday night just because I haven't been sleeping well. So there's a lot of little things that are lining up in a way that if Monday morning is difficult for me, I won't be surprised. But then when I get to work, I did my best before I left to set things up in a way that I come back to a familiar, and I come back to an ease as much as it can be due to my what I could control. What will be out of my control is what happens every day when I go to work. I don't know what emails I'm going to get. I don't know who's going to reach out to me and tell me whatever. I don't know what issues are going to come my way, just like every other day. But I feel okay knowing that I left things on the Friday the way I normally leave things on the Friday, so that when I come in Monday, there's there is some predictability, as much as there can be. It will exist because I set it up that way. And then next thing you know, you're an hour into work and it's like you never left. Or at least that's how I feel. So you take what you can get. I'm glad that I had the week with my family. I did some really cool things with the family, and I'm happy about that. But this week was upside down for me compared to what my weeks normally look like. Yeah, it feels a little upside down. All good though. I'm wearing the Decoded Podcast t-shirt, only one of two made.
I
It's very limited edition.
like it. I think mine I outgrew. So Jake has it, I think. But I told you, I think he might have outgrown it too. So
Yeah, that's so it's funny that you mentioned that, because the last time I saw your son at your show, he looked completely he looked like he had gone through a transformation.
yeah.
It's like what's the word I'm looking for? I want to say matured, but it's the wrong word. He went from looking like a kid, and now
Mhm.
he looks more like an adult. He's on that side of the spectrum. And
Yeah.
then last night when we were at my wife's parents' place, they looked at my youngest and they're like, "Oh my God, like when did you sprout?" Because he is all of a sudden he seems taller. And
Mhm.
it was funny because I was saying to my in-laws, I'm like, yeah, the last time I kind of looked at him on the ice when he was playing hockey, he it was PG was at Will's game last weekend, and he's like, "When did Will grow? Like, he's huge." And I'm like, "He kind of is, isn't he?" He's just standing there, and there are all these short people around him, and it was just same type of thing. I saw your son, and I'm like, "Whoa, Jake's more on the adult side of things now than on the kid side of things." And then yesterday, same, it was mentioned that my youngest was more on the adult side of things and the kid side of things. It's just one of those things. You snap your finger, and there it is, right? So yeah, the shirt probably doesn't. Who knows what happened to the shirt, you know? But that's cool. I haven't seen your daughter in a while, so I imagine she's more. I'm I'm assuming. Uh, Assumptions can be wrong though, but I'm assuming she's more on the adult side than the
Mhm.
well, yeah. I don't know if she's grown or whatever, but I know your son looks a lot. I was
It's funny, she's kind of, yeah, she's mentioned a couple times, and it's usually relative to Jake.
like,
She's just like, she's stopped growing. Like, she's sort of
oh,
like, she's already into, I think kids, and I said this to Jake the other day, they get in the zone where they the bones stretch out and then the meat fills in, so they thicken up. So, whether it's, whatever muscle mass that starts to kind of like layer over the sort of I think the bone growth comes first, and then you sort of thicken up a bit, as far as I understand human biology. So Maddie, I think, is done with the bone growth as far as height goes. They seem to have kind of stabilized. I haven't noticed a growth spurt per se. So I'm sure, Matt's now in the filling in portion of their human growth. Jake is sort of like just coming to the end of the bone growth. So the meat that was there is now stretched over a longer frame. And then I said to him, we were actually out for a walk a couple of days ago. I said, man, like, you'll now go into the filling in phase. So, grade 10 into grade 11, you'll get more into what will be kind of like your adult frame, like what your adult frame will look like. So then you hit your 40s and 50s and you get a few more layers on, and the bone frame contracts a little bit, you get a little bit smaller. I said, but right now, both my kids are, they're different sized, man. They're definitely different sized, bigger sized. I was thinking about that too, even going back, being away from my students for a week. Um, I'm sure they're going to comment on not remembering that my hair was this long the last time, or that my beard, that I left somehow and I didn't have a beard. The last role that I was in, I only had that Ned Flanders mustache, and now I have like a full beard again. And I do have one of my students that's just constantly in awe of the beard. Like, he wants to grow a beard of his own. He's a super cute kid, really nice, really kind. Um, I had another student that they were really upset that I don't just have the mustache anymore. They said, I really liked you with the mustache. I'm like, oh, got to flow with the stage demands. So
that's cool that you operate in that space. That because of the acting you do on the side, you you meld and mold.
I
And
code switch, baby. Code
well,
switch. It's a different version of code switching, right?
you have to.
Mm-hmm.
You have
Mm-hmm.
to because you're playing different characters.
It's true.
Would you, I'm thinking it'd be kind of cool to push back on that. And no matter what character you are, to remain your same physical self and see what kind of tensions come from that.
I agree. I think for me, I like this idea of immersion into the character. Like, it's still me there. I'm aware of, like, the character that I'm doing right now is a lot safer for me to immerse into than, let's say, back in the day with God of Carnage. Like, the character Alan Raleigh that I played in God of Carnage, the like cutthroat lawyer, like on the day to day, I could not be that person. I would not.
Mm.
I would, like, I just couldn't. It has to just, the safe place for that character was to be on stage. It wasn't safe for that character to be free ranging. I've been lucky the last, well, not lucky, it's just different. The last three characters that I've played, like, I can let them walk around a little bit. I can sort of be that person, and people be like, that's a little bit off. Like that's not how you normally are. Like even like rumors. I could be um I could be Ernie. Like I could walk around and be Ernie. That kind of like buffoon, silly, kind of goofy dude, right? Like that like there's it's safe for Ernie to walk around in public. The character I'm doing now, Lloyd, it's safe, kind of chauvinistic, kind of, and it would be safe in my own life. Don't know if it would be safe at school because the character's kind of like more sarcastic and less caring about people's hearts than I am. So yeah, I do like the immersion though. That's the one thing I do like. I like going into a role and seeing can Chris disappear a little bit. Yeah. So I dig that.
That's cool. I'm not sure if we're heading out, but before we do, there's a student that often is in the student success room, and she is into acting. She's
Mhm,
into like modeling and that type of thing. And the one day we were chatting, I was telling her about you, my friend Chris, who
mhm.
uh, acts and does community theater and stuff. And then I don't know how we got onto this. She was like, "Have you ever considered playing Santa?" And I'm like, "Tell me more." I'm like, "No, I don't see myself as Santa because I have black hair. I'm of Middle Eastern look and this and this." And she's like, "Oh my God, Mr. C." She does this thing in November and December in Waterloo where she's part of like an acting thing, but it's a Christmas themed thing. She's
Mhm.
like, "You'd be a great Santa." She's like, "I've seen ginger Santas," and she's going on and on about all these people who were hired to play Santa. And she's like, "You'd be great." You could even, you could keep your beard. And I'm like, "What are you?" I was looking at this kid like, "You're lost. Like, who wants to deal with a Santa like this?" But anyway, I
I
thought,
gotta agree with this kid. I gotta agree with this kid. I would love to see Middle Eastern Santa.
well, she said, she's like, "Put it on your radar. And next year, when I'm getting into," because apparently she's one of the main characters of this
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
She's like, "I'll let you know when they're doing auditions and stuff, and if you really want to try, you come out and try to be Santa." And I was
Dude.
like, I
That
had a
would yeah.
moment. I had a moment of like a moment of I think I should consider this. I think I should consider this.
The universe gave you a peek at this broader universe that you could be a part of. It's just a peek, and then the door just kind of goes like this, right? It kind of closes up and it leaves you changed. I love that you're considering it, even if it doesn't happen. I love even that we just had this conversation.
But she was
That's
like,
awesome.
"There's a ton. We hire a ton, so you
I think
might
that's
be the
awesome.
guy that works Thursday nights from 7 to 10, and
That's
you're
awesome.
Santa of that time,
I
right?"
love it.
And she was like, she kind of paid me a compliment. She's like, "You're really nice to the kids in here," and I'm laughing, right? Because I'm like, well, 17-year-olds aren't going to come and hang out with me. But she's like, I was like, "I used to teach primary." She's like, "Well, you're really good in the room with us. I'm sure you'd be great with little kids as Santa." And I was just like, it was just funny that like a 17-year-old, 16-year-old was like, "You could be
You're
Santa in the production that I'm part of." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
the elders come in all wisdom comes in all forms, right? Like the fact that this person opened your mind.
Yeah,
Think of how
100%.
think of how think about the rarity of that encountering the adults in your world, introducing an idea that you just can't stop thinking about. Like it gets in. I think that's awesome that a 17-year-old did that to you. It really does. It speaks volumes to just how cool some ideas can be and how sticky they can be. That's awesome.
Are we done, Chris? Any final words?
Do our sign off, baby. Do our sign off.
This was season 8, episode 22, number 329 of the Decoded podcast. Gary, thanks for hanging out with us and saying good morning. Have a great weekend before you go back to work. And that's it. We'll catch you guys later. Peace.
Peace, friends.